This video is a replay of a trade I took today. Now, it probably goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. I am not a financial advisor, and trading entails risk. Just because I got these results today doesn't mean that I can get these every day, nor that you can. Remember, the entire premise of the investing project and the $1 million experiment is that I am not an expert, and yet I am learning how to do this. So for heaven's sake, don't just blindly copy me. Instead, find a mentor, someone who is an expert, and join their community. Pay for their mentorship. This approach has worked very well for me, and it likely will for you too. So use this video partly as education and partly as inspiration. After all, if I can learn this, you can too.
Well, I tried again to time a reversal, and it just wasn't happening. I think I ended up I ended up stopping out. I took the ES, largely because the ES looked like it was most ready, although that's a relative term. But we had first of all this if you look over here, this doesn't do a very good job of showing it. But if I go to the 30-minute chart here, and I used the 30-minute as the opportunity to put this trend line on. And as you can see, for the last number of 30-minute bars, we finally kind of based here. And it looked like, well, maybe we're getting ready to, well, at least consolidate, if not break out at some point. So there was that little bit of background idea here. And then what I did is because at this point I don't really trust the 5-minute to show me anything of particular value. What I did is I looked at the 15-minute and said, okay, I'm going to take once I actually had this set up where we had a nice or a reasonably nice wick here. It came back up. We had a 15-minute green bar that closed, and I put the buy just above the high of that green bar, and said, okay, well, let's give this a shot. That's where it'll be 77.32, and I'll hit play and we'll let this go. It looked like it was potentially ready. If you look up here at the NQ, it was already, we had 1, 2, 3, working on the fourth green 5-minute bar. Of course, that didn't last terribly long. It just seemed to really have some trouble trying to break out, but we ended up, so anyway, as you can tell, we triggered the trade, but then of course it got stuck in the same sort of muck that it was in yesterday as well. The main difference between today and yesterday is I kept the size down to 2 contracts of the ES, and I did not put on an NQ. And I was tempted at one point here when we had 1, 2, 3, 4, what was looking like 4 green candles. I was very tempted to put that on, but I'm glad I didn't, obviously, because it came down along with everything else. In fact, I think the NQ pretty much led the decline. And if you look here at the previous week's value area low, which is a volume profile piece of information, it was probably an attracted to this. It makes sense that if it came down, if I look at the 1 minute, in fact, just for follow-up, might hit it before I even get to the 1 minute. If you look at the 1 minute, you can kind of see, just up here, up, it's coming down, does a low, comes down to a lower high, comes down to a lower low, back to the same area. It's not exactly a lower high. Well, it is a little bit if you're comparing that. So a lower high, and then it comes down here and takes out this value area low. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the S&P is just following suit. And so it comes down here, flirts with the low. Oh, by the way, I moved this slightly. I moved this down to 77.14, I think, in order to give myself 3 extra points of room. So I wanted 3 below the low. In any case, it didn't matter. It came right down, by the way, to the 77.14 and turned around, and I thought, wow, interesting. Maybe I dodged a bullet here. Maybe it's actually going to go back up. And it started in that direction. It was actually looking reasonably positive. We're looking at the 1 minute candles here now. It was actually looking reasonably like, oh, maybe we pulled that out, and it's actually going to be okay. But yeah, of course it's not. It's always interesting though to see when you have a stop placement and something comes right to like just a tick above it. Very interesting. Anyway, long story short, we did not succeed. We were taken out, but it is kind of worthy of note that it came back here and took out that value area low, and away we went. My lines have all disappeared up here. It's strange. Just looking for the point at which it stops me out. I had actually gotten up and left the room. I had things to do. Okay, so we're out. Now we're still above this trend line, but the trend line was really intended to establish an upper trend, not a lower trend. In any event, or a lower bound. But what we'll see here at this point is, I think it might have come down a little bit further from that. It's almost invariably the case that the liquidity is grabbed. My stop gets triggered and then it turns around and goes. I don't know. It was a good location, regardless. If you look at where we were, this is a location here. If you look at the hourly, this is not the hourly. It's just the 4-hour chart. If you look at that, you can see that it's a pretty good support along there. There's nothing really wrong with that as a support. And it seemed like it was bouncing. That's here, by the way, when you look at it. So it's a little bit below that support, but not by very much. It's at or just a little bit below the ATR, average true range low. It's certainly below the previous day's low, way below that, and below the pre-market low. All things considered, this is a good area. Unfortunately, I'm out and didn't get a chance to play the recovery there. So such is life.